Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, I'm guessing it's because you want that shortcut.
The fast lane.
Exactly, the fast lane to really feeling knowledgeable, not just absorbing facts, but actually being able to express those facts with the sharpest precision.
Right.
You want to be able to walk into a room and use language that truly reflects the complexity of the thoughts you're having.
That's it exactly. Fluency isn't just about how fast you can speak, it's about selection. It's choosing the right tool for the job.
Ah, that's a great way to put it.
It really is the difference between using a generic, sort of all-purpose word and choosing that one perfect word that just captures all the nuance, the context, the intent.
Absolutely. And that is our mission today, really laser focused on providing that shortcut to advanced fluency. We've gone through a fantastic set of source materials, articles, usage guides, vocab builders that highlighted 20 advanced and I think vital English words.
And we've distilled those sources. We're going deep today,
Right.
way beyond just the simple dictionary definitions.
Right, we're not just reading a list.
No. Not at all. We're going to be exploring the usage structures, those critical prepositions, the conjugation traps that can catch you out, and all those subtle nuances that guarantee when you use one of these words, in conversation or in writing.
You sound authoritative.
You sound instantly more fluent, more authoritative. We're really aiming for immediate, practical application here.
So to make that happen, we've structured this deep dive for logical memory retention. We're breaking the words down by their grammatical type.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It does, right?
Yeah.
First, we'll tackle the nouns. These are the words that help you precisely define concepts and situations.
Then we'll get into the verbs. Those are all about active, expressive action and reaction.
After that, adverbs, which are kind of the secret weapons that add that necessary intensity and detail to the action.
And finally, we'll cap it all off with the adjectives, which, allow you to paint these really vivid, sophisticated descriptions of things.
Think of this as us equipping your language toolkit with some high-precision instruments.
I like that analogy.
Okay, let's unpack this and jump right in, starting with the precision of nouns. These are the words that define the difficult situations, the sudden impulses, or the minor setbacks you run into every single day. Okay, our first noun is quandary.
Quandary.
Yeah, it sounds academic, a little weighty, and maybe a bit challenging to pronounce correctly.
Well, the pronunciation is definitely worth noting right off the bat. Quandary. And it means a difficult situation or a dilemma, but it's so much more specific than just saying, I have a problem.
How so? What's the extra layer?
A quandary implies a difficult choice. It usually involves two or more options that are, equally complex or equally demanding, or maybe even equally undesirable. You're in an intellectual tight spot.
That's the crucial difference then. It's not just an obstacle, it's a choice between difficult paths. And when we were looking at the usage examples, a structural formula kept popping up. The most common one is to be in a quandary.
Right.
I mean, I can say I'm in a problem, but it sounds a little clunky.
No.
But if I say I'm in a quandary about whether to take the new job or stay where I am,
It sounds so much more mature, so much more thoughtful.
it does.
Because it perfectly captures that sense of difficult deliberation. You're not just dealing with a hurdle. You're wrestling with two valid but competing paths. The decision itself is the core of the difficulty.
But, a listener might ask, why not just say dilemma then? What specific weight does quandary add that dilemma might not have?
That's a wonderful distinction to make. And while they are very close synonyms, quandary often implies a deeper, maybe more systemic perplexity. A dilemma often forces a binary choice, A or B.
Right, this or that.
Exactly. A quandary, especially in a professional context, can describe a situation where the variables themselves are so complex that they create not just a choice, but a state of confusion, a state of being stuck.
I see. So it's the complexity of the situation creating the difficult choice.
Precisely. And think about that slightly more dramatic structure we saw. To find oneself in a quandary. It really emphasizes the unexpected nature of being caught in that situation. You didn't plan for it, you just found yourself there.
That structural use definitely helps. For instance, Sarah found herself in a quandary when both her best friends asked for contradictory favors at the same time.
Perfect example.
She can only help one of them, so the choice becomes emotionally complex, and that creates the quandary.
It elevates the conflict. And we see this in bigger systemic thinking, too. A pattern we noticed was the managerial use case.
Oh, like in a business context.
Exactly. The manager's quandary was whether to invest in critical new equipment or hire 3 essential new staff members. Both are valid needs. The budget forbids both, and the choice is going to define the entire next quarter.
That turns a simple budget problem into a genuine strategic quandary.
It really does.
And it works beautifully in reflection, too. Like, if you're describing a personal struggle you overcame, using quandary signals that you didn't just solve a simple issue, you navigated a period of real difficulty.
You can use the past simple for that.
Right. I was in a quandary about how to structure my career path until I found the right mentor. It shows intentionality, that you were really thinking through a complex problem.
It truly does. It's a word that just screams thoughtful consideration, which is why it's such a brilliant addition to an advanced vocabulary.
Okay, so moving from that quiet internal deliberation to loud external chaos, our next word is ruckus.
Ruckus. I like this one.
It has a slightly informal, almost playful quality to it, but it's very, very descriptive. A noisy commotion or a disturbance.
It's a wonderfully evocative word. The pronunciation is simple. Ruckus. Just make sure that first U is unstressed. And the power of ruckus is that it captures both the noise and the physical disruption, the chaos, at the same time.
So it's not just sound.
It's not just loud sound, it's the disruption caused by the noise.
Got it.
Oh.
I noticed a key pattern when we looked at the examples. It really benefits from a strong verb. The most common phrase seems to be to cause a ruckus. And there's a great intensifier that was often paired with it. The kids caused quite a ruckus when they found out the pool was closed.
Using quite a ruckus really amplifies the image, doesn't it? We're not just talking about a little bit of whining. We're talking about screaming, yelling, maybe running around, a significant, noticeable disturbance.
It's a highly descriptive term for that kind of human chaos, or I guess excitement leading to disruption.
Right.
So can we use ruckus for non-human disturbances? For example, if a tree fell on a car, is that a ruckus?
That's a great question. Generally, no. While the result is definitely loud, ruckus almost always implies human or animal agency, or at least a situation where the resulting noise involves a widespread human reaction.
Okay, so the human element is key.
It's almost essential. The classic example is the fire alarm. There was a ruckus in the hallway after someone pulled the fire alarm. You immediately visualize the alarm sound, sure, but also the human commotion.
The shouts, the running, the confusion.
Exactly. It's that human element that really makes it a ruckus.
That distinction is really helpful, so it perfectly describes the noise resulting from a chaotic human situation. What about figurative uses, though? Can, say, a political situation cause a ruckus?
Absolutely, and this is where you get into a great advanced application of the word. While its primary meaning is physical noise, it can definitely describe an intense, disruptive controversy or debate.
So, like, the senator's new proposal caused a political ruckus that lasted for weeks.
Perfect. That means loud, chaotic, disruptive debate, even if no one was literally shouting in the hallways of the Capitol. The metaphorical noise is the disturbance.
That makes it a fantastic tool for commentary. And finally, there's the direct command structure, which is simple and effective. Stop making such a ruckus. People are trying to focus.
Clear, direct, and a little bit scolding. It immediately defines the behavior as unacceptable.
All right, our next noun is whim.
A very useful word. Whim is all about impulse. It defines a sudden and often quite arbitrary decision. It captures spontaneity.
And that spontaneity can range from being charmingly impulsive to
Frustratingly irresponsible.
Exactly. And the structural usage here is absolutely paramount for anyone learning the language. The key is that prepositional phrase, on a whim.
Yes, that's almost always how you'll see it.
You rarely see the word without that structure. You don't make a whim, you act on one. It defines the mechanism of the decision as being driven by some unexpected desire.
That structure is vital. They decided to drive to the coast for the day on a whim. That simple phrase, on a whim, conveys the total absence of planning. It was pure positive impulse.
Spontaneity leading to fun.
Right. But the word can certainly carry a negative connotation, can't it? Especially when it comes to money.
Oh, for sure. Think about the shopping example. She bought the antique chair on a whim, even though she didn't consider the cost or where she would even put it.
It was just an unexpected, unneeded purchase driven by a sudden, fleeting desire. When a decision is made on a whim, it often implies a lack of foresight or planning.
And that can say a lot about the character of the decision maker.
It really can. If someone frequently acts on a whim in major financial or life decisions, they might be viewed as unstable or overly impulsive. It carries a subtle judgment.
It's powerful how much context is packed into just 3 little letters. And it works beautifully in the plural, which I think is a key advanced usage note.
Yes, especially when you're describing a recurring pattern of behavior in someone you find unreliable. His decision to move country suddenly was just another one of his expensive whims.
So there, whims transitions from describing a single action to defining a character trait.
A pattern of irrational spontaneity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a whim is that spontaneous, often personal, unpredictable impulse inside us. But sometimes unpredictability comes from the world around us.
Yes, and that's where we hit our next noun.
Our modern lives are built on these incredibly complex systems, and nothing derails a plan faster than a tiny systemic breakdown, or as our next word defines it, a glitch.
Glitch.
Yeah.
It specifically refers to a minor error or malfunction, and it's almost always associated with a system, a machine, or software. It's a staple of modern conversation.
We have words like bug or error, but a glitch seems different.
It is. A glitch implies something sudden, transient, and maybe even hard to trace. It's like an unexpected flicker in the system.
The usage is pretty straightforward, right? There is a glitch. We use this all the time in technical contexts. There was a glitch in the checkout software causing the prices to display incorrectly.
Right. And we also observed a great verb phrase in the sources, to hit a minor glitch.
Oh, that's good.
When you hit a glitch, it implies the encounter was sudden and unexpected. It interrupted an otherwise smooth process. Everything was running smoothly until we hit a minor glitch in the system's database backup.
That phrasing communicates the surprise and the sudden interruption very clearly.
It does.
I think the key precision point here, the thing that moves it beyond its synonyms, is that glitch almost always implies it's temporary or random, doesn't it?
That's the perfect way to frame it.
A bug feels more permanent, like it's a pervasive error in the code. An error is just a mistake. A glitch is more like a momentary hiccup.
It's a small, momentary systemic deviation. That's a great definition. And we often pair it with an adjective to specify its origin. The most common one is technical.
The flight was delayed due to a technical glitch.
Exactly. The adjective technical immediately narrows the source of the error down to technology or machine failure, which is its most common habitat.
Can you use glitch figuratively, though, outside of technology, like a mental glitch?
Yes, you can, though it's less common. If someone says they had a mental glitch, it usually means a momentary lapse in memory or attention, a brief, unexpected malfunction in their thought process.
So it still maintains that core meaning of a transient systemic failure, even if the system is the human mind.
Exactly. It's a very versatile word for the digital age we live in.
Okay, our final noun in this section is stroll. After all that talk of systemic breakdowns and difficult dilemmas, I think we need a word that captures some measured, unhurried ease.
Stroll is perfect for that. It's a fantastic example of a word that's part of daily, accessible speech, but instantly makes your English sound more advanced than just saying a relaxed walk.
The defining feature of a stroll is that it's unhurried, right? It's gentle, and it's done for pleasure or relaxation.
That's the core of it. And crucially, the sources really highlight its dual nature. It can serve as both a noun and a verb.
And that dual use makes it incredibly efficient in a conversation.
It does. Starting with the noun usage, the two classic structures are to take a stroll or to go for a stroll.
And you can add description to it. We took a nice, quiet stroll through the park after dinner. It just emphasizes that leisurely quality of the activity.
It does. And now let's connect this to the section that follows, on verbs. The verb usage of stroll is where you integrate that intention of leisure directly into the action itself.
Right. If you stroll, you are already moving slowly and enjoyably. The meaning is baked in.
Exactly. She likes to stroll around the neighborhood to clear her mind. In that structure, stroll is the infinitive verb, and it communicates relaxation and enjoyment more effectively than saying she likes to walk slowly around the neighborhood.
The choice is subtle, but it's so vital. When you use stroll as a verb, you're embedding the intention. It's relaxed, it's for enjoyment, it's not rushed. It's a fantastic, expressive word for everyday conversation that it elevates the expression immediately.
Agreed. And speaking of elevating action, let's transition now from the quiet, leisurely stroll to actions that often require intense focus and intention. Let's move into our selection of active and expressive verbs.
Verbs are where language really comes alive, aren't they? They drive the narrative forward.
Absolutely.
Our next 5 words are all designed to convey intention or subtlety or force far greater than their simpler equivalents. They take the mundane and make it meaningful.
First up is scrutinize.
The scrutinize.
It means to examine something very closely and carefully, an action word that implies intense focus and real diligence.
And here's where the conceptual weight comes in. If I say I scrutinize something, it sounds inherently stronger and more thorough than just saying I reviewed it or looked at it.
Much stronger.
If you scrutinized a financial report, you went through it with a fine-tooth comb, looking for every tiny detail. It's a verb that commands respect for the diligence of the action.
Precisely. The action suggests due diligence, maybe even a little suspicion, or at least a high-stakes reason for the review.
Right.
The source materials also gave a useful note on pronunciation for fast, casual speech. Sometimes native speakers might use a flap T sound, so it sounds a bit closer to scrutinize.
Like in water, that sound.
Exactly. Though the fully enunciated scrutinize is always correct and very common. But hearing it that way is key for comprehension in a fast-paced conversation.
So when we looked at the use cases, the professional context just dominated.
Oh, absolutely.
An accountant scrutinizes financial records for errors. A lawyer must scrutinize a contract carefully before advising a client to sign it. In these situations, missing a detail has serious consequences.
That phrase, "you need to scrutinize the contract carefully before signing it," should be internalized by every learner. The scrutiny applies you're looking for errors, for loopholes, for any hidden detail that could compromise your position.
I wonder, though, does using scrutinize sometimes feel a bit too aggressive or intense in a more casual setting?
That's a fair question, and it really speaks to choosing the right word for the moment. You probably wouldn't say you scrutinize the menu at a cafe,
Right.
but you can use it to describe routine actions when someone feels overly observed or monitored. For example, my supervisor scrutinizes my emails before they're sent.
Using the present simple tense there shows it's an ongoing routine thing.
Yeah, and perhaps a stressful action that suggests micromanagement. In that context, the intensity of the word is justified by the feeling of it being constantly watched.
Okay, next is dwindle. This is such a great verb for showing a transition over time. It means to gradually decrease or diminish.
The emphasis on gradually is paramount. It's the whole point of the word. If something crashes or falls rapidly, you wouldn't use dwindle. This word is reserved for a slow, steady, and often kind of lamentable decrease in quantity or size or intensity. It's a far more advanced and evocative alternative to just saying something is going down.
The classic examples involve resources or crowds. The crowd began to dwindle as the concert came to an end. You can instantly visualize the venue emptying slowly, one group at a time.
It's a temporal verb. It emphasizes the passage of time required for the change to happen.
And then there's the personal finance application, which always hits hard. Her savings dwindled after she lost her job and had to rely on them for living expenses.
That just conveys so much more than her savings decreased. It tells you they were slowly being eroded over months, which is a crucial emotional and temporal distinction.
Since this is a verb, the conjugation really needs to be top of mind for a learner. We notice that using it in the present continuous highlights the ongoing nature of the decline.
Yes, like interest in the new community project is dwindling rapidly now that the initial excitement has faded.
It connects directly to the idea of attention spans, which is so relatable today.
It does. And the power of dwindle can even reach an extreme state. The initial excitement for the tour has dwindled nearly to nothing. It shows that the starting condition has almost entirely vanished over a measured period of time.
It's the perfect word for describing that slow, quiet erosion, whether it's money, resources, or even emotional investment.
All right, let's transition to nudge. This word is wonderful because it captures such a gentle action, whether it's physical or figurative.
It means to physically push or encourage someone or something, but that gentle, subtle nature of the action is the word's defining feature.
That distinction of gentle is everything. If you shove someone, that's aggressive.
Right.
If you nudge them, that's a deliberate communication or a minor correction. Physically, the classic example is using it as a reminder. She nudged him under the table to remind him it was his turn to speak.
That small elbow tap, it serves a very clear and usually discreet purpose.
Or consider how we interact with objects. A pattern we observed highlights a very modern necessity for the action. He nudged the door open with his hip just enough to peek inside.
A nudge is deliberate, but not forceful. I do that all the time when my hands are full or, trying to avoid germs on a door handle.
Exactly. But the figurative use is where this word becomes truly advanced and powerful. It's fantastic for describing gentle encouragement regarding difficult decisions.
So I knew the decision was right, but I needed someone to nudge me into finally signing the papers.
Yes. This figurative use suggests a subtle form of guidance or encouraging pressure. Not a hard demand, but just a gentle prompting or some words of support to help someone overcome hesitation and move forward.
So it's a kind of positive pressure.
It often is. It's used a lot in psychology and marketing, actually, to describe subtly influencing behavior.
So if a company gently influences you to buy a complimentary product at checkout, they've nudged you toward that purchase.
They have. It's a polite form of manipulation, which makes the word very useful in modern business contexts. The subtle nature of the action makes it applicable to both the physical world and the world of psychology and decision-making.
Okay, now for scoff, which is a pretty abrupt departure from the gentleness of nudge.
A very different energy.
This verb means to mock, show derision, or express contempt. It's a very visceral and immediate reaction.
It is. And crucially, the correct structural form, most of the time, requires the preposition at to complete the action. You scoff at an idea, or you scoff at a person's ability.
For example, he scoffed at the idea of working overtime on the weekend.
Right, that shows his immediate and utter contempt for that suggestion.
A key insight we found in the source material was that scoff is often expressed as a sound effect or a nonverbal reaction, more so than just being spoken aloud.
That's absolutely right. It's the sound of disbelief, of mockery, of dismissal. It's that little huff of air or a quick dismissive sound. You describe someone making the reaction, but the word itself carries the meaning of the sound and all the emotional content attached to it.
It's a highly efficient descriptive verb, then. I do wonder, though, if using scoff in professional circles might be considered too dramatic. I mean, if I simply say, he disagreed, that's neutral. If I say he scoffed, I've instantly painted him as arrogant or dismissive.
You have, and that's the power of the word. If you want to convey that the disagreement was accompanied by extreme disdain and a lack of respect, then scoff is the precise word to use.
So it's about choosing your intent.
Exactly. We often use it to frame negative reactions toward ambition or novelty. My father scoffed when I shared my idea to quit my job and start my own business. Or she scoffed when I told her I was training to run a marathon.
In both of those cases, the word immediately tells the listener that the reaction was belittling and hostile. It packs a huge emotional punch.
Our final verb is dodge, meaning simply to avoid something quickly, whether physically or strategically. And like nudge, it gains its power from its dual function: physical movement and figurative avoidance.
Physically, it's a quick, clear movement. She quickly dodged out of the way to avoid being hit by the baseball. That implies a fast, sudden, reactive movement designed to evade danger. It's almost instinctual.
It is. But the figurative use is its advanced application, especially in complex social or professional scenarios. The politician managed to expertly dodge the question by changing the subject to a completely different policy.
He didn't physically move, but he used a calculated strategic technique to avoid addressing the core issue directly. This is a classic example of conversational avoidance or evasion.
We see this figurative use constantly in high-pressure environments like job interviews or press conferences. If you want to describe someone who is being evasive or cunning in conversation, dodge is the perfect choice.
And there was a highly specific, vital, structural note for learners here. It's when dodge follows the verb keep.
Yes, it requires the present participle, the ing form, to imply an ongoing pattern of behavior. You can't keep dodging responsibility forever. Eventually, you have to face the consequences.
That structure is key. It implies a continuous habitual pattern of evasion, which turns dodge from a descriptor of a single action into a descriptor of character.
It does. This verb is incredibly versatile, applying equally to physical agility and strategic mental avoidance.
Those 5 verbs really define action with so much clarity and emotional weight. Now let's explore the modifiers, the adverbs, which take those actions and infuse them with necessary detail and intensity.
Adverbs are absolutely the secret weapon of advanced English, aren't they?
They really are. They might technically be optional in a sentence, but adding the right one instantly makes your expression more precise, more sophisticated, and more insightful. They define how an action is performed.
And we begin with implicitly. This means performing an action in a way that is understood or suggested without being directly or explicitly stated. It's the subtle modifier that handles all the things that are left unspoken.
Its primary function as an adverb is to modify a verb and inject this sense of unspoken understanding or confidence. For example, trusting someone. I implicitly trust her to manage the negotiation and make the right decision.
That phrase is powerful because it states that no formal agreement, no signed document, or even verbal promise of trust was needed. The trust is inherent. It's built in. It's assumed. That's the core power of implicitly.
And it works perfectly with instructions and agreements where the communication is indirect. The revised guidelines implicitly suggested that we should cease production until the safety review is complete.
So they didn't use the direct command stop production.
No, but the meaning was clearly there, buried beneath the surface of the text.
This is so critical for understanding legal language, contractual language, policy language. We saw this in one of the source notes. By simply accessing and using the software, you implicitly agree to the terms and conditions outlined on the website.
Right.
The act of signing on or clicking accept constitutes implicit, unstated acceptance of the consequences, even if you didn't read every single line.
That distinction between implicitly and explicitly is what makes this word so strong. Explicitly is stated clearly, in detail. Implicitly is inferred, understood, or accepted without being directly spelled out.
Yes, and sometimes that unspoken agreement holds even more weight. If you implicitly rely on your team to perform, that trust is deeper than if you simply explicitly required them to do so with a checklist.
Okay, let's move from that quiet, unspoken understanding to intense, fiery passion with zealously.
Zealously. It means performing an action with great passion, fervor, or enthusiasm.
This is a high-energy adverb. It conveys extreme commitment and drive. If you want to demonstrate an intensity that goes way beyond simple enthusiasm, you use zealously.
It suggests dedication, almost a missionary fervor, for the task at hand.
The examples here show action being performed with total commitment. The team volunteered and zealously organized the charity event, ensuring every single detail was perfect.
That wasn't minimal effort. That was passionate, driven, devoted work. We also see it heavily in professional contexts that involve advocacy. To zealously represent a client. That tells the client that their legal or financial representative isn't just working for them. They're fighting fiercely and passionately on their behalf.
Or, she zealously promoted the new product to every customer who walked in. That shows a full-throated belief in what she was selling.
It also pairs well with descriptions of focused hard work. He worked zealously for 3 days straight to finish the critical component ahead of schedule. It communicates both speed and unwavering dedication, making the achievement sound even more impressive.
Using zealously just automatically elevates the verb it modifies, doesn't it? It indicates a heightened level of emotional and intellectual investment in the outcome.
It's a word that suggests going above and beyond the required effort.
Okay, so if zealously defines passion, then our next word, lavishly, defines scale and degree. It means performing an action in an extravagant or excessive manner.
And we have to emphasize that lavishly describes the degree of the action, which can be positive or negative depending on the context. It implies abundance, richness, and often expense.
The most common applications relate to spending and decoration, really showcasing excess. They decorated the venue lavishly for the royal wedding, sparing no expense on flowers and silk.
Or the company spent lavishly on its annual investor party, flying guests in from around the world. In these contexts, it means expensive, abundant, and potentially over-the-top expenditure.
But the positive use is what makes it so versatile. It can also describe extreme appreciation or praise.
Absolutely. The executive lavishly praised her team for their hard work and dedication, highlighting their names in the annual report and giving them public commendation.
She wasn't subtle or restrained in her praise.
Not at all. She was extravagant in her compliments, ensuring the team felt fully recognized and celebrated.
So it simply means an action done to an extreme, opulent, or excessive degree. You wouldn't use it for small acts. You wouldn't lavishly salt your soup.
But you might lavishly tip the waiter. Precisely. It requires a level of action that suggests abundance. It's a fantastic descriptor for situations involving wealth, generosity, or deliberate grand scale.
Next up, we have briskly. This is a perfect example of an advanced word that captures a common action but adds necessary precision. It means acting in a quick and energetic manner. It's stronger than just quickly.
That energy component is absolutely key. When you act briskly, there is purpose, efficiency, and a certain snap to the action. If you acted hurriedly, that might imply panic or haste.
That's a great distinction.
Briskly implies intentional, purposeful speed.
This is why it's so often used to modify movement. She walked briskly toward the train platform to catch her connection. It's not a frantic, panicked run. It's a fast, efficient walk with clear intent and energy.
We also see this in service and efficiency contexts. The server briskly cleared the table, efficiently stacking dishes to make room for the next customers. The action is quick, neat, efficient, and professional.
It also works brilliantly modifying speech or action in a meeting. He spoke briskly, wanting to finish the presentation and move into the Q&A segment as quickly as possible.
That tells you about the speaker's urgency and tone. It injects speed and efficiency into their delivery without suggesting nervousness.
It's the ideal descriptor when you need to convey both speed and purpose at the same time. Adding briskly makes the sentence instantly more descriptive than relying on generic synonyms like fast or rapidly.
Our final adverb is solemnly.
This is a weighty word. It defines an action done in a serious, formal, and often reflective manner.
This word is a powerhouse for character insight in dialogue or narrative, as it highlights the gravity of a situation. If someone performs an action solemnly, you know the seriousness and formality of the moment are fully recognized and respected.
Think about the context of making a significant pledge. He solemnly promised to uphold the organization's code of ethics for the duration of his tenure.
The word guarantees the seriousness and formality of that pledge. It ensures the listener understands this is not just a casual promise.
It also describes physical posture and mood in formal settings. The entire assembly stood solemnly during the reading of the memorial list. It implies quiet respect, deep seriousness, a complete lack of levity.
And even in a professional transition, it carries weight. She solemnly handed over the resignation letter, understanding the impact her departure would have on the team.
So it shows she conducted the action in a formal, respectful, and serious way, not casually or angrily.
Choosing solemnly over just seriously or formally injects a depth of reverence and gravity into the action. It suggests that the person acting fully recognizes the significance and the long-term implications of what they're doing.
These adverbs truly demonstrate how small modifiers can completely revolutionize the meaning and impact of a sentence. Now, let's wrap up our vocabulary lesson with the adjectives, which allow us to give real depth to our descriptions.
Adjectives are the color palette of language, aren't they?
They really are. These 5 words allow us to move beyond simple descriptors and provide strong, precise characteristics of people, objects, and even abstract concepts.
And we start with convoluted.
Convoluted. A superb word meaning complicated and difficult to understand, often because it's unnecessarily complex or tangled.
And the crucial impact note here is that it sounds far more advanced than just saying something is complicated. Convoluted carries an extra layer of difficulty. It specifically suggests unnecessary complexity or outright confusion.
So it implies the difficulty is the result of a winding, tangled, or roundabout structure.
Exactly. The primary use case is complexity in communication or instruction. The instructions for assembling the new machine were so convoluted, referencing pages that didn't exist, that I simply gave up.
So they weren't just complex, they were hopelessly tangled and baffling.
Right. And we frequently use this to critique writing or explanations that fail to achieve clarity. His explanation of the new tax code was convoluted and full of jargon, making it virtually impossible to follow.
He used too many tangents or loops.
Exactly. And of course, the classic critique of narratives in books or movies. The plot of the movie was just too convoluted. This means the storyline was overly complex, maybe deliberately opaque, with too many characters or unnecessary twists that actively detracted from the viewing experience.
I have to ask, though, is using a word like convoluted sometimes just a way to sound smarter when the speaker actually means badly explained?
That is a key point for critical listening. And while it can be misused that way, when used correctly, it means the structure itself, the winding paths, the complex layering, is the problem, not just the quality of the explanation. A convoluted argument is structurally unsound because it contains too many difficult-to-track dependencies.
So it's a precise critique of complexity, not merely an insult.
When used properly, yes.
Okay, next up is jittery. This word describes a very specific energetic form of nervousness.
It means nervous, restless, or physically unable to relax.
It's the perfect word for that anxious, restless energy. The key phrasing here, which really helps with application, is using the verbs get or become to get jittery or become jittery.
This describes classic emotional states where anticipation is high. The students were audibly jittery as they waited for the professor to post their final exam results.
Or, I always get jittery before giving a large public presentation. It's that anxious energy that manifests physically.
It does. And let's connect this to the physical side effect. We all know the feeling of having too much caffeine. After drinking 3 cups of strong coffee, I started to feel intensely jittery.
That physical manifestation is exactly why this word is so precise. It describes the physical feeling of overstimulation. feeling your heart beating faster, noticing your hands shaking slightly, the inability to sit still.
That feeling of restless, stimulated anxiety is precisely what jittery describes. It's so much more detailed than just saying, I feel nervous.
I remember once trying to give a presentation after drinking a triple espresso, and I was so jittery that I couldn't stop tapping my foot. That feeling of nervous energy preventing you from performing smoothly is the essence of this word.
Let's transition to a highly positive adjective now. Quirky.
Quirky.
It means unusual, but specifically in an interesting, appealing, or charming way. It's almost always a term of endearment. It defines a unique and positive eccentricity.
That distinction, unusual but charming, is what prevents it from being an insult, isn't it? If someone is merely strange, that can be neutral or even negative. If they are quirky, you like them precisely because they're unusual.
Exactly. The classic examples focus on personality or style. He has a wonderfully quirky sense of humor that relies on obscure movie references, but it always makes the whole office laugh.
It's not standard humor, but that's what makes it appealing and memorable.
It's also great for describing places or aesthetics that are deliberately non-standard. The example of a cafe with quirky decor, mismatched chairs, brightly colored walls, vintage odds and ends.
It's unusual, maybe non-standard, but it gives the place a distinct, lovable personality.
It gives someone or something an immediate edge, a sense of memorable individuality. Her quirky personality ensures she stands out in a crowd. It's a strong, positive indicator that someone is unique, fun, and memorable, without crossing the line into being negatively strange or eccentric.
It's the perfect antidote to the next word we have on our list.
If quirky celebrates charming individuality, then finicky is its slightly negative, judgmental counterpart. This means excessively picky, fussy, or difficult to please.
It implies that the pickiness is beyond reasonable limits. It's excessive. It definitely carries a negative tone.
For sure.
For example, describing someone's food habits. He's so finicky about his food that he won't eat anything if it contains more than 3 ingredients. He's being overly selective and fussy.
And the versatility of finicky comes from its ability to describe not just people, but also inanimate objects or tools that require excessive exactitude to function properly. This is a key advanced usage.
Tell me more about that mechanical use case.
We saw an excellent example relating to office equipment. The old scanner is finicky about jams if the paper isn't loaded precisely right.
I have one of those.
When used for an object, it means the tool or machine won't cooperate or behave properly unless everything is absolutely perfect. It's a way of warning someone that the object is difficult to manage or appease, that it demands unreasonable attention to detail.
We also see it describing personal presentation and habits. She's a finicky dresser who spends hours choosing the perfect outfit because she is very picky about texture and color matching.
Again, the word emphasizes the difficulty or the excessive attention to detail required. It's the word you use when picky just doesn't sound strong enough.
Our final adjective is bland. This is a negative descriptor, meaning severely lacking in strong flavor, character, or excitement.
It is most commonly used and most easily understood to describe food. The doctor prescribed a bland diet, meaning food that needs to be mild, simple, and unseasoned.
Or just, the restaurant's soup was bland. It needed salt, herbs, spices, something to give it character.
Right. But the true value of bland for advanced fluency is in its extended contexts. When you use it to describe anything that is dull, uninteresting, or boring due to a lack of character, this is where it really shines.
I love the application to presentation design. A presentation slide is a little bland. That suggests it needs color or a dynamic image or more engaging graphics to prevent the audience from falling asleep.
It applies beautifully to aesthetics and visual elements across the board. The new office building was painted a bland shade of beige. In this context, bland describes the color as dull, boring, or utterly unoriginal. It fails to stimulate or capture attention.
Can a person have a bland personality?
Absolutely. If someone has a bland personality, it means they lack defining characteristics, sharp wit, or passionate interests. They are perceived as dull, predictable, or unexciting.
They lack the necessary flavor to make them memorable.
They're the opposite of quirky.
That makes bland incredibly useful. It allows you to move beyond just criticizing flavor to criticizing aesthetics, design, atmosphere, or even human character.
We have completed our inventory. Now let's bring all these powerful tools together.
We have just completed a serious, comprehensive deep dive into 20 essential words designed to elevate your English fluency.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We did. We covered 5 nouns: quandary, ruckus, whim, glitch, stroll. 5 verbs: scrutinize, dwindle, nudge, scoff, dodge. 5 adverbs: implicitly, zealously, lavishly, briskly, solemnly. And 5 adjectives:
Yeah.
unvoluted, jittery, quirky, finicky, and bland.
And the core benefit here is immediate applicability and precision. We didn't just give you a list. We gave you the grammatical formulas, the prepositions, the conjugations, the key usage contexts that ensure you can deploy these words instantly and correctly.
Think about the conversations you can have now. Instead of saying the project was difficult, you can say you found yourself in a quandary because of a technical glitch.
Exactly.
You can describe a manager who zealously promotes his team after they briskly completed a convoluted report.
The power lies in choosing the most precise word, moving away from that generic vocabulary. The team didn't just disagree. One executive scoffed at the new idea. They didn't just walk slowly. They took a pleasant stroll. This level of precision grants you conversational authority.
It also lets you combine these words for deeper impact. You might solemnly watch your bank account dwindle after buying a boat on a whim. The ability to integrate them transforms your sentence structure instantly.
And this brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with, which builds on everything we've just discussed.
Okay.
If vocabulary dictates precision in communication, does the mastery of highly specific words like scrutinize, quandary, and zealously also enable a more precise and critical understanding of the world around us?
That's a deep question. If your vocabulary is simpler, are you limited to understanding concepts only in broad strokes? What does our existing, perhaps simpler vocabulary allow us to implicitly miss in the subtle, nuanced, and complex situations we encounter every single day?
Right. Does a limited vocabulary mean you are less equipped to recognize a difficult trade-off as a quandary, forcing you to treat it merely as a simple, soluble problem?
Food for serious thought until next time.
It is.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, you have given us a pretty serious mission.
It's a big one.
We have a stack of advanced sources, and our goal is to pull out 16 of the most powerful C1 and C2 level words and phrases.
And not just define them. The goal is to inject them directly into your usable vocabulary.
It's exactly right. Our objective here is all about fluency elevation.
Yeah, we want to move you past that, that common plateau of B2 language.
If you find yourself always reaching for words like different, or improve, or even review,
then this deep dive is really going to give you the precision tools you need.
And I think it's important to say these aren't just like dusty academic words.
Not at all. These are the terms that native speakers use, I would say, almost automatically in things like formal emails, business presentations, and high-level academic discussions.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. We are aiming for something more than just recognizing the word.
Yes. We want immediate, actionable integration.
Because the key to C1 and C2 vocabulary, it isn't just knowing the definition, is it?
No, it's understanding the nuance. It's knowing the grammatical structures they demand, and I think most importantly, why an advanced speaker would choose this specific word over a simpler one.
That's where the power lies.
Absolutely. So we've synthesized these 16 power words and phrases from the sources and grouped them into 5 functional clusters.
And this clustering is important.
It's crucial. It helps you associate the words with specific situations. You'll have the language of scrutiny, the language of improvement, of scale, and so on.
So that thematic connection helps with, rapid application.
Exactly. It helps it stick.
So this deep dive is really custom tailored for you, the learner who needs to get this knowledge quickly, but also thoroughly.
We're going to provide those deep context insights, those little aha moments that hopefully stay with you long after this conversation is over.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're starting with the language we use when we need to be meticulous, focused, and, absolutely logical.
So when we're talking about critical analysis, we need a verb that really conveys maximum effort.
Something that goes beyond just check or review.
Precisely. And that brings us to the C1 verb, scrutinize.
I think this is a great starting point, but let's get straight to the core of it. When would I use scrutinize instead of just saying, I'm going to review something? What does it really add?
It adds intent and depth. So the definition of scrutinize is to examine something very, very carefully.
But with a specific goal.
Exactly. Often, it's specifically to find flaws or errors or mistakes. The insight here is the purpose.
Ah, okay.
When you review a report, you're reading it. When you scrutinize it, you are actively searching for hidden weaknesses, for inconsistencies, for vulnerabilities.
So it implies a much higher degree of responsibility.
And a much deeper dive into the material, yes.
That elevates the word immediately. It's the difference between, say, a quick glance at your bank statement and a full-on forensic audit.
That's a perfect analogy.
So in a professional context, you're basically saying, I didn't just look at this, I tried to break it.
Precisely. And consider the examples from the sources. The everyday one is scrutinizing ingredients before buying anything.
Right. You're not just reading the label.
No. You're checking for high sugar content or artificial dyes or whatever specific thing you know is a flaw relative to your diet. The intention to find that flaw is paramount.
And this feeds directly into high-stakes environments, like in business.
For sure. The sources really emphasize this as essential managerial language. If a manager is scrutinizing every detail of the report,
They're doing their job.
they're fulfilling a key duty to ensure quality control and catch mistakes before they become massive corporate problems.
Yeah.
It implies they are the final rigorous gatekeeper.
Okay, what about pronunciation? Is there anything to watch out for?
There is a little note on that. You will hear native speakers, especially in faster speech, use a flop T, so it sounds more like scrutinize.
Scrutinize.
Yeah, but the standard three-syllable pronunciation, scrutinize, S-K-R-U-T, and gerdize, is also perfectly fine.
So it's just important to be able to recognize both.
Exactly. You'll hear both in the wild.
I think we need to talk about the highest stakes use of this, which is due diligence. When someone asks you, have you scrutinized the contract? That question carries an immense amount of weight.
It's not a casual question.
No. It's asking if you have performed that meticulous examination needed to confidently say there are no hidden flaws, no hidden costs, no surprises before you sign a legally binding document.
And we see this principle applied anywhere there's complexity. Market forces and researchers, they routinely scrutinize data.
They don't just accept the numbers at face value.
Never. They test the assumptions, they check for anomalies, they try to falsify the results. That level of intentional critical thinking is the essence of the word.
So what happens if we fail to do that? If we fail to exercise that deep scrutiny?
Well, we might end up accepting flawed reasoning as if it were fact.
Right.
And that failure of logic brings us perfectly to our next C1 noun, fallacy.
Fallacy.
A fallacy is a very specific type of error. It's a mistaken belief, particularly one that's based on faulty or illogical reasoning.
So it's not just a mistake in the general sense.
No, it's a structural error in your thinking.
The insight here for me is how deeply these fallacies are woven into just, public discussion.
Oh, everywhere.
Take the abstract fallacy cited in the sources, the mistaken belief that more money always leads to more happiness.
A classic one.
If you scrutinize that belief, you find the faulty reasoning immediately. It completely ignores the importance of health, relationships, purpose, things that aren't purely monetary.
Exactly. And in an academic or professional argument, being able to recognize a fallacy is a critical skill. Someone might not even see the logical fallacy in their own argument.
Maybe because they started with a flawed premise.
Right. For example, the ad hominem fallacy, where you attack the person instead of their argument, that's a failure of logical structure.
So by using the word fallacy, you're signaling that you're analyzing the structure of the argument itself.
Yes. Not just that you disagree with the conclusion.
It's a great word for discussing public perception. You could ask, what common fallacies do people believe about success or about work-life balance? This takes the term out of their, dusty realm of classical logic and puts it right into real-world critical thinking.
And the example about health coverage is a great one. The fallacy that health coverage guarantees low costs.
Which often ignores the massive deductibles or copays.
And they were not scrutinized.
Right. It shows how these two words are so closely linked in practice.
And just a quick grammar note for clarity. The plural form is fallacies.
Fallacies.
When you're discussing complex, multi-layered topics, you often find multiple mistaken beliefs at the same time. You might find a combination of a correlation-causation fallacy and a confirmation bias fallacy.
And being able to name those fallacies gives you immense precision.
It does.
Okay, so we've scrutinized the details, we've identified potential fallacies, but often, even when an idea is sound, we have to set specific conditions to make an agreement work.
Yes, and that condition, or that warning, is our C1 noun, caveat.
Caveat.
A caveat is a warning or a condition that you have to consider before you proceed. It's often used when setting terms or entering an agreement.
The insight I want to get to here is about its usage. Is it always a friendly warning, or can it be a non-negotiable term?
It can be both, but it always implies seriousness.
Okay.
If I lend you my car with one caveat, no highway driving, that's a clear, non-negotiable condition attached to the favor.
It's not just advice.
No. If you ignore that condition, you've broken our agreement.
So in a legal or formal context, a caveat is a formal limitation or exception.
Exactly. If a technical report is released and it contains a caveat about the data's age, that is a formal warning that limits how applicable the findings are.
And if you ignore it, you risk operating under a severe fallacy about how relevant that data is.
Precisely. The source notes that she ignored the caveats and faced the consequences. This really highlights the binding nature of the word.
The consequences followed because the term of the agreement, the caveat, was disregarded. For the C1, C2 speaker, using this word correctly in a meeting is really powerful.
It is.
Instead of saying, I agree, but I have a condition, you could say, I agree, but we must consider this key caveat.
You're demanding that the condition be treated as a binding part of the discussion.
Right. Or if you're checking due diligence. Were there any caveats attached to the formal agreement? It's just a very precise way to make sure you have full transparency on all the binding warnings or conditions.
So to sum up this first section, you scrutinize the foundation to find errors, you identify fallacies in the reasoning, and you ensure you understand all the binding caveats before you finalize any plan.
That sequence gives you the core language of detailed analysis. All right, moving on from analysis, let's talk about action. We're not just looking to improve things. We want to optimize them.
Right. And that brings us to the C1 verb, streamline.
Streamline. This word feels indispensable in any discussion about business or technology.
It is. It means to improve a process or a system by making it simpler and more efficient.
So the key insight that separates it from just general improvement is those twin goals.
Simplification and efficiency. That's it.
But why can't I just say optimize? Is streamline better somehow?
That's a great question. Optimize often implies finding the single best solution among many, many variables.
Okay.
Streamline specifically implies removing unnecessary complexity, friction, or steps to get the result faster and with less effort.
I like the visual of it, making something sleek like the body of a race car or a wing, removing the drag.
That's the perfect way to think about it. It's a targeted reduction of friction.
Which is why it's so common in manufacturing.
Yeah.
Sources mention the necessity to streamline the production process to reduce cost.
They're not just trying to make better products, they're making the process of making them faster, simpler, and therefore cheaper.
So if you're giving a formal presentation on operations, choosing streamline over improve instantly elevates your language.
It does. It tells your audience that you are focusing specifically on simplified, efficient workflows. It signals a professional understanding of operations management.
And the opposite scenario is just as important, right? Talking about the negative outcomes of failure.
Yeah, that highlights the word's value. If a company fails to streamline the workflow as they planned,
The consequence is tangible.
a lot of losses in time or money. It really underscores that inefficiency has a clear, measurable cost.
And we can apply this concept to more abstract things too, like information flow.
Of course.
The question, how can they streamline communications between departments? That doesn't mean having more meetings.
No, it often means the opposite. It means removing friction, maybe by setting up a single point of contact or a standard reporting system.
All to improve the efficiency of that information transfer. The goal is flow and speed.
When you use streamline, you're suggesting a systematic redesign, not just a quick fix.
Right. In software development, you might streamline the debugging process by adopting new automation tools.
Thereby reducing the manual steps required to identify errors.
Exactly. So once a process is simplified and efficient streamlined, you still need people to execute it consistently.
Yes, and that requires a specific, targeted kind of motivation.
Which brings us to our next powerful verb, incentivize.
Incentivize. This is all about behavioral economics.
Absolutely. Incentivize means to provide motivation or rewards incentives to encourage a specific action or behavior.
The core mechanism is cause and effect. I want you to do action Y, so I offer you reward X.
On a macro level, we see this in government policy all the time. The government incentivized green energy adoption. By providing financial rewards like tax breaks or subsidies.
Which makes adopting the desired behavior using green technology more financially attractive than the alternative.
And this translates directly to the corporate world, especially when dealing with how to allocate capital.
Yes, the discussion often comes up around how to incentivize corporations that are sitting on huge resources abroad to use those resources domestically.
And the proposed solution is usually some kind of tax advantage.
The incentive. That steers the large-scale economic behavior.
This word feels vital for discussing management strategy. If you're reviewing employee performance, you have to ask,
Are we incentivizing the right behaviors?
exactly. If you reward employees based purely on speed, you might inadvertently be disincentivizing the detailed scrutiny we talked about.
Leading to high-speed but flawed outputs. That's a great link back to our first section.
And we have to recognize the failure mode, too.
Of course. When employees are not incentivized effectively, you get a failure to produce the desired behavior.
So if the incentive is too small or too delayed or just disconnected from the actual effort,
The behavioral driver fails. It becomes clear that effective incentivization requires a deep analysis of human motivation.
so we've streamlined the process, we've incentivized the team. Now we often need to integrate new components, new features, new feedback.
Which requires the C1 verb, incorporate. It means to include or integrate a part into the whole. The visual here is merging different elements into a single cohesive body.
You see this in design all the time. The example is the new municipal building design incorporates elements from traditional local architecture.
The traditional style is a separate element, but it has been fully integrated into the overall building structure, making it one cohesive whole.
And in process management, the failure to do this is a major red flag.
A huge one.
Failure to incorporate feedback into the final version. The feedback was provided as a necessary part, but it was left out of the whole.
Using incorporate in that context suggests that the final version is structurally deficient because it lacks that integrated element.
For technical learners, this word is really high value. If you're asked in an interview, how do you incorporate user suggestions into the development process?
They're not just asking if you listen to suggestions.
No, they're asking about the systematic integration of external data into your working model.
And we can use it conceptually too. When you learn new information, you have to incorporate that piece into the larger context of your existing knowledge.
It's about making sure the new data point fits coherently into your overall understanding of how the future might unfold.
You're building a mental model that is continually incorporating new variables.
So these three verbs, streamline, incentivize, and incorporate, they move us from just general improvement to something much more targeted.
To structural and behavioral optimization.
Exactly. Our third cluster focuses on describing the size, speed, and the ultimate conclusion of complex processes. We'll begin with a high-impact C1 verb for rapid expansion. Proliferate.
Proliferate. That means to increase rapidly in number or to spread quickly. This word has a kind of immediate, visceral power to it.
It does. And that uncontrolled, often exponential spread is the key nuance. It's a verb that really captures the anxiety of rapid, expansive growth.
So in the realm of information, the classic example is
Fake news and misinformation have proliferated on social media platforms in recent years. The rapid spread across countless channels, increasing in both speed and volume. It makes proliferate really the only precise verb for that.
it's the perfect word.
It really captures that idea of runaway growth. I notice it's used often when talking about complex, undesirable things.
It often carries a negative connotation in social and political discussions, for sure. It implies a problem that is spiraling outward.
But it can be used neutrally, right? Like cell proliferation in biology.
Absolutely. And the source also notes that sometimes you can use it in the negative, which implies a successful control measure was put in place.
As in, the rumors didn't proliferate as expected.
Right. This suggests that whatever countermeasure was deployed, perhaps strong scrutiny, it prevented the rapid, uncontrolled spread of that false information.
And let's ground this in science for a second. It has a very concrete meaning in biology and medicine.
Yes. How did harmful bacteria proliferate in that area?
So that's asking how the organism managed to spread or increase in number so quickly, usually because of favorable conditions.
So the C1 speaker should feel comfortable applying this term across technological, social, and scientific domains.
Okay, so when something is proliferating, its size and significance can grow to an alarming level.
Which leads us directly to the C1 noun, magnitude.
Magnitude, the great size, importance, or extent of something. The power of this noun is that it can apply to physical scale and conceptual impact.
That duality is the key insight. You can use it to describe a physical event like a measurement of force. The magnitude of the earthquake wasn't reported accurately.
Referring to its size on the Richter scale?
Exactly. But most often in formal discussion, it's describing conceptual scale.
We often hear about people underestimating the magnitude of a crisis.
Yes. And they aren't just underestimating the number of people involved.
It's the overall importance and the extent of its long-term impact. And that lack of accurate assessment can lead to catastrophic decisions.
For a C1 speaker, using magnitude is crucial for underscoring the scale of a challenge. If you say, can we truly grasp the magnitude of this challenge?
You're elevating the discussion. You're moving beyond just asking, is this hard?
You are. You're questioning whether our current systems or even our mental models are adequate to process the sheer scale of the difficulty.
I find this word is often used to put historical events or major discoveries into context. You look back and say, discoveries of this magnitude do not happen overnight.
That links the grand scale of the result, the magnitude, to the long, arduous process that came before it. It's a reminder that significant impacts require significant investment.
And that connection to a long process brings us perfectly to our third term in this section.
Culmination.
Culmination. It's a C1 noun, and it refers to the highest or final point of something, especially one reached after a long process.
It's not just the end. It's the climax, the grand finale, the ultimate result that all previous efforts were directed toward.
It gives purpose and weight to that ending. A student's final dissertation wasn't just a paper.
It was the culmination of years of specialized training and research. All those preceding steps, the reading, the seminars, the failed experiments, they were all directed toward this ultimate highest point.
I think the emotional weight is important here too.
It is.
When an outcome is disappointing, you hear sentences like, it wasn't the culmination we had hoped for.
Which implies that the final result of all that effort just didn't reach the desired climax or high point. It suggests a sense of letdown proportional to the effort invested.
And in the business cycle, you can use it to assess strategic planning.
Was this product launch the culmination of their 5-year strategic plan?
Which asks if the event was the intended high point and end result of that entire multi-year body of work.
To master this word, you just have to make sure the process was long.
Right. You wouldn't say the culmination of your lunch was dessert.
No. You would reserve culmination for the conclusion of something that required sustained effort over an extended period. A project, a career, or a major historical event. Okay, this section is where we move fully into C2 territory.
I was waiting for this.
We're focusing on phrases and adverbs that precisely describe complex relationships and dependencies. Let's start with the phrase that replaces based on in really formal texts.
To be predicated on.
That's the one.
This sounds intimidating, but it feels like a really high-value phrase for formal arguments.
It is. The definition is simple: to be based on or depend on something. But the structure is the critical insight here.
Right. What's the main rule?
It is non-negotiable. It uses a passive construction, and it requires conjugating the verb to be.
So, is predicated on, was predicated on, has been predicated on, and so on.
Exactly. A common mistake for learners is trying to use predicated on as a simple synonym for rely on without that passive voice.
You can't just say, the strategy predicated on long-term trends.
No. You must say the strategy is predicated on long-term trends.
That clarity is essential.
Yeah.
When you use this phrase, you're challenging the very foundation of an idea.
You are.
His entire argument is predicated on outdated demographic data. This isn't just saying the argument uses old data.
No, it's saying that the structural integrity of the entire argument relies solely on that foundation. If the foundation is weak, the whole thing collapses.
We can apply this to assumptions, too.
Their initial assumptions weren't predicated on facts. They were predicated on wishful thinking.
That usage, with the negative and the affirmative, shows the foundation was weak, derived from emotion, not evidence.
It's a key phrase for any critical strategic review. If I ask, is this marketing strategy predicated on long-term shifts in consumer behavior?
You're forcing a foundational analysis.
I'm asking, does the success of this strategy entirely depend on these long-term trends? If the answer is yes, then those trends themselves require intense scrutiny.
On an abstract level, it can be quite beautiful.
How so?
Consider the phrase, the entire success of the project is predicated on the act of truly listening to the client's needs.
Ah, I see. Listening is transformed from just a passive action into a foundational element upon which the project's entire existence rests.
Exactly. Now, when we look at the foundation of complex projects, we often find elements that don't seem to belong together at all.
Which brings us to the C1 adjective, disparate.
Disparate.
It means essentially different or unrelated in nature, seemingly incompatible. The insight here is that it describes a difference so profound that the things being compared seem to have no connection whatsoever.
It's so much stronger than just different.
Much stronger.
If I have 3 different shoes, they're still shoes. If I have 3 disparate ideas, they are from completely separate fields.
Like theoretical physics, medieval literature, and modern supply chain management.
And combining 2 disparate ideas is often cited as the root of true innovation.
That juxtaposition is the power of the word. The most innovative products often combine technologies or concepts that were previously considered totally incompatible.
The smartphone is the perfect example.
It combined disparate technologies, telephony, computation, internet access, into one single product.
And in analysis, if findings are too disparate to draw a single conclusion,
it means the results are so unrelated, so far apart in nature, that you can't logically unify them into one coherent summary. Your data is effectively fractured.
It also applies really forcefully to demographic comparisons.
Yes, if groups are disparate in size, opinion, and background, say, one focus group of 5 people and another group of over 3,000, all with opposing views.
The difference isn't just numerical.
It's fundamental. It's structurally significant, which makes a direct comparison meaningless.
Okay, we've discussed things that are disparate, but what about things that are so close they can never be separated?
That's where the high-level C2 adverb inextricably comes in.
Inextricably.
It means in a way that is impossible to separate or divide. It's a powerful intensifier, signaling a fundamental, unbreakable connection.
The pronunciation is one to practice. Inextricably.
And grammatically, it's an adverb, so it modifies a verb, usually one of linking. The classic examples are inextricably linked or inextricably tied.
The most common usage feels philosophical or cultural.
Culture and language are inextricably linked. They're fundamentally woven together. You can't fully understand one without the other.
So it's not just a strong connection. It suggests that trying to analyze them separately would result in a structural fallacy.
That's a great way to put it. And the nuance is exploring other verbs it can modify.
Right. You might say 2 complex narratives are inextricably woven together.
Or that the fate of 2 companies is inextricably intertwined. These are much more sophisticated than just sticking with linked.
And this word is fantastic for posing a deep, reflective question.
For example,
are our personal identities inextricably tied to our jobs?
That question really challenges the listener to think about whether it's truly possible to separate their intrinsic sense of self from their professional role.
A crucial distinction in discussions about career and mental health.
Yes, the word itself forces you to acknowledge the inseparable nature of that tie.
Oh. Okay, a quick note on timing. We've discussed things that are linked, and now we move to actions happening at the same time. The C1 adverb simultaneously.
Simultaneously, at the same time. While the definition is simple, the C1 skill is using it fluidly and precisely to describe parallel actions.
It's essential for describing coordination. The film was released simultaneously in multiple global markets, Japan, Germany, Puerto Rico, all at once.
Which implies really complex logistical coordination to ensure the timing was identical across those disparate zones.
It's also important in workflow discussions. The sources point out the challenge of task management.
Right. Can you complete these complex tasks simultaneously? Or is it better to finish one, scrutinize it, and then move to the next?
It raises that core question of parallel processing versus sequential, detail-oriented work.
And I love its use in high-level character description.
To describe someone as simultaneously impactful and tragic.
It conveys that their great positive effect and their personal suffering existed at the exact same time, creating this complex, multifaceted reality.
And finally, in our logic and causation section, we need an advanced adverb to denote error in a formal way.
Erroneously.
Erroneously. A C2 adverb meaning in a mistaken or incorrect way. The mnemonic is helpful. It starts like error.
It does.
But why use this instead of just wrongly or incorrectly?
Precision and formality. In a legal brief or a scientific paper or a high-stakes internal memo, erroneously signals that the error was not intentional misconduct. It was a genuine mistake in interpretation or execution.
So The data was erroneously interpreted as much more formal and less accusatory.
Yes, then saying someone interpreted the data incorrectly. It shifts the focus from the person to the systematic nature of the mistake.
We can use it for everyday mistakes, too. We erroneously thought the meeting was today.
It's a very clean, sophisticated replacement for we mistakenly believed.
And critically, it applies to systems. Was the server erroneously programmed to shut down early?
That means the programming was executed, but it was done incorrectly or by mistake. It's the precise language of technical failure analysis.
And tying this back to the concept of fallacy, the word is crucial for discussing public discourse. When the media and the public erroneously believe a specific narrative,
Like the idea that a majority of post-9/11 veterans have a mental health disorder, which is factually incorrect.
right, it shows how a systemic mistake in interpretation can create a widespread, powerful, but ultimately false societal fallacy.
So we're going to finalize our deep dive by focusing on the language of motivation, advocacy, and the results driven by intent.
And we're starting with the C2 adjective that describes profound wrongdoing, nefarious.
Nefarious, it's a strong word. It's the high-level alternative to common words like bad or evil or wicked.
What's the nuance that it captures that those simpler words miss?
It specifically implies a criminal or morally corrupt intent. It doesn't just mean bad behavior. It means behavior driven by wickedness or malice, often on a grand, premeditated scale.
So if someone is involved in a nefarious plot to steal company secrets,
We instantly understand that the plot is not just bad or aggressive. It is wicked, criminal, and morally reprehensible. It elevates the severity immediately.
which is why it's so common in legal and business ethics discussions.
Exactly. A company might be accused of nefarious business practices, meaning they are engaged in criminal activity, like illegal price fixing or insider trading.
Using this adjective signals that the actions cross a serious ethical and legal boundary.
It does. And the word forces a strong ethical assessment. When we ask, are they really capable of such nefarious acts? We're questioning their fundamental moral capacity for wickedness.
It's a powerful tool for discussing corruption and deep-seated malpractice.
And speaking of action and intent, sometimes the intent is simply to draw something out, to cause a reaction.
And that is the C1 verb, elicit.
Elicit. It means to draw out or evoke a response, information, or reaction. The key here is that the action you take causes the response to be produced.
So it's an active seeking and drawing forth.
Yes. Think of it in the context of professional communication, especially teaching or interviewing.
The teacher's carefully crafted question elicited thoughtful, complex answers from the class.
The quality of the question directly caused the quality of the response.
And the insight is that if you fail, you note that failure to draw something out.
Exactly. The reporter's questions failed to elicit any useful information from the tight-lipped witness.
The attempt was made, but the desired information wasn't successfully drawn out.
For leaders and communicators, this is a very strategic verb.
How can we best elicit constructive feedback from our participants?
Right. It's asking for a specific strategy, a method, a technique, a system of incentives to actively cause the participants to provide the information you need.
It suggests that if you want a certain response, you have to structure your inquiry precisely to elicit it.
And finally, when intent is focused on consistent active support, we use the C1 noun phrase, to be an advocate of.
To be an advocate of.
It means to actively support or promote a cause, an idea, or a policy. The phrase itself is high value, but the grammatical requirement is paramount.
It requires conjugating the verb to be.
You have to get that grammar right. You can't say she advocate of change.
No. You have to say she has always been a strong advocate of mental health awareness. The verb to be is the engine of the phrase.
And it must be conjugated based on tense and subject.
This phrase is perfect for showing a shifting stance, too.
He wasn't an advocate of the new remote work policy until he saw the efficiency gains it produced,
Which shows a clear change in his supportive position over time.
often predicated on a change in the factual evidence.
For you, the listener, mastering this phrase lets you articulate your professional identity and beliefs with real precision.
When you're asked, are you an advocate of flexible work structures? You can use the phrase to state your support or your opposition.
And the phrase also naturally builds professional identity, like when describing someone as a law professor, lawyer, and civil rights advocate.
The title becomes integral to their persona.
So these final terms, nefarious, illicit, advocate, they give us the C1, C2 vocabulary needed to discuss human intention, motivation, and ethical commitment in the most rigorous way possible.
So we have just completed a pretty meticulous deep dive into the C1, C2 landscape.
We have.
By learning to scrutinize and identify fallacies, and by incorporating these 16 terms, you really move beyond just conveying information.
You start communicating with genuine precision.
You now possess the language to discuss complexity, whether you're analyzing two disparate ideas, describing inextricable links, or explaining outcomes of significant magnitude.
And that is the defining power of this new vocabulary. You now have the linguistic tools not just to speak, but to strategically streamline your communication.
And incentivize a deeper, more nuanced understanding in your audience.
You are no longer just participating in the conversation, you are guiding it.
And as we close, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought that sort of synthesizes this new language.
Okay.
We spent time today discussing how findings can be too disparate to draw a single conclusion, and how many widespread beliefs are, unfortunately, based on clear fallacies.
So consider this, something for you to mull over and perhaps scrutinize a bit further.
In what fundamental ways might our current societal definitions of success be erroneously interpreted?
And what new human-centric metrics do we need to incorporate into our assessment models to redefine success based on verifiable facts, rather than on mistaken beliefs that have just been allowed to proliferate?
We'll see you next time for the next deep dive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission is always the same. We take a mountain of expert material articles, masterclasses, you name it, and we distill it down to the absolute most critical knowledge you need right now. And our listener today is the learner. This is someone who, you're not starting from scratch. You're competent, you can communicate, but you've hit that incredibly frustrating plateau.
The gap between intermediate and advanced is immense. It really is.
It's huge.
It's where the explicit written rules of language, the stuff you learn in a textbook, start to give way to the implicit intuitive rules. And you feel challenged because the language stops being about pure translation. It starts being about cultural patterns, rhythm, and these fixed hidden word groups that they defy logical explanation.
Exactly. And that's what we're tackling. We've pulled together material from a specialized masterclass designed to bridge that exact struggle. So think of this deep dive as your shortcut. We are going to untangle the most confusing expert level topics.
The big ones.
The big ones, yeah. Collocations, phrasal verbs, idioms, some really advanced grammar, all to fundamentally rewire how you approach English and hopefully make you sound like a native speaker faster.
And our mission here is to really unpack the mechanics of how native speakers actually use the language. We have to move beyond just defining these terms and look at why they trip people up so much.
Right.
It's not about learning the definition of 1,000 new words. It's about mastering the underlying structural rules that govern how those words group together. That's the real path to fluency.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Let's start with what we're calling the non-negotiable rules of natural vocabulary. If you want to sound natural, you have to master collocations. Why is this concept? Why is it the absolute foundational step?
Because collocations are word pairs or groups that are, they're fixed. They sound naturally paired to a native speaker's ear. And if you miss this step, you can be 100% grammatically correct, but you will sound deeply unnatural.
Oh, okay.
It's the difference between saying heavy rain and strong rain. Both adjectives mean a lot of water, but only heavy rain sounds right in English.
That distinction, correct versus natural, that is huge. A learner often tries to just translate directly from their native language, right?
Yeah.
And the English equivalent of make or take might be the exact same word in their language.
And that's where it all falls apart.
Yeah.
That direct translation will sabotage your fluency immediately.
So it's not a logical choice.
Not at all. Let's look at a few examples where the meaning seems interchangeable, but the word choice is just. It's set in stone. Take the noun decision. If you translate make a decision into Spanish or French or German, you might find a verb that aligns more closely with take or do.
But in English,
it is non-negotiable. You must make a decision. If you say take a decision, a native speaker will understand you, of course, but that little red flag of awkwardness just goes up instantly.
Right. It just sounds a bit off. It highlights that the choice isn't based on the core meaning of the verb, but on its fixed historical pairing with the noun.
Precisely. And that fixed pairing applies across verbs that mean creation or execution. Take the noun promise. We don't do a promise, we make a promise. That establishes the commitment.
But what's interesting here is that once the promise is made, the verbs associated with its fulfillment change completely. You don't make it happen or something like that.
No. Once it's established, the actions change.
Yeah.
You either keep the promise, you uphold your commitment, or you break the promise. You fail to fulfill it.
And notice how we use break, which is such a strong negative verb to describe not fulfilling a promise. It really underscores the seriousness of it.
It does. So we have make a decision, make a promise, and then for something as simple as resting,
Yeah.
you take a break. We don't do a break or have a break in that sense. We take it.
Take.
The verb take works here because it implies seizing an opportunity for rest. But honestly, regardless of the rationale, the pairing is fixed. Take a break.
Okay, and this is where the advanced challenge comes in, right? Because even though these pairs are fixed, the active verb within the pair, the make or take, it still has to obey all the standard grammar rules.
You mean conjugation?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. You have to identify that active verb and conjugate it correctly for the subject and the time. You wouldn't say, I make the decision to learn English last year.
Right. I would say, I made the decision to learn English. The collocation is make a decision, but the verb make has to be correctly shifted into the past tense, made.
And this extends to articles too. It's a subtle point. If you were discussing the concept generally, you might say, it's important to make a decision, but if you're talking about a specific instance,
Then it's, I made the decision to quit my job. That slight shift from the indefinite article a to the definite article, that's so easy to overlook, but it's critical for fluency.
it is. So the takeaway here is hard but simple. Collocations require dedicated memory work. You have to note them, memorize them as fixed units, and just accept that they don't always follow logic.
Except the rigidity. Okay, so if collocations are rigid, what about phrasal verbs? They feel like the flexible, chaotic counterpart of advanced vocabulary.
They absolutely are. A phrasal verb is a verb plus a particle, right? Which might be a preposition or an adverb. Simple structure, but the complexity is terrifying for many learners.
Why is that? What's the main challenge?
It stems from two key areas. First, the particle often shifts the core meaning of the main verb completely. You can know the verb look, but when it becomes look up to or look into, the meaning just changes entirely.
And the second area.
The second is that a single phrasal verb can have multiple meanings based purely on context. It's a semantic minefield.
And crucially, before we even get into the examples, we have to talk about separability. This is a critical point that learners so often miss.
Absolutely. Phrasal verbs fall into two main types, separable and non-separable. If a verb is separable, the object can often go either between the verb and the particle or after the particle. For example, with the separable verb look up, I can look up the word or look the word up, both are fine.
But the moment we replace that object with a short pronoun, like it, the separability rule becomes mandatory, not optional.
That's the key. If it's separable, the pronoun must go in the middle. You have to say, I looked it up. You cannot say, I looked up it. It sounds completely wrong.
And what about the non-separable ones?
Well, with non-separable verbs, the particle is always fixed to the verb. It behaves differently. A classic example is look after, meaning to care for.
Right.
You cannot say, I look the kids after. The particle after must follow the object. So I look after the kids. And if you replace the kids with them, it remains non-separable. I look after them.
That is such a critical advanced distinction. The learner needs to know not only the definition, but also the separability of the phrasal verb.
It's all about structural dexterity. So let's dive into our case study. The highly flexible phrasal verb take off. We've got at least 5 distinct meanings from just those 2 short words.
Okay, meaning 1, the most physical, remove, like I always take off my jewelry before bed.
Simple enough. Meaning 2, departure, often for transportation. What time does your plane take off? It's leaving the ground.
Then there's meaning 3, the metaphorical success one, my idea took off, which means it became successful or suddenly popular. I love that analogy in the source. Charting success like a plane's steep ascent.
It makes it memorable, doesn't it? Meaning 4 is a simple, quick way to say to leave a place. You know, I'm late, I should take off. It's casual, quick, very natural.
And 5, the commercial meaning, reduce or subtract from an amount. The store took off 50% because of the scratch. They discounted it. 5 concepts, all relying on the exact context.
And let's revisit that structural challenge with the pronoun replacement using takeoff. We established that takeoff in the sense of remove is separable.
Right, so I take off my jewelry. And jewelry, even if I have many pieces, is uncountable, functioning as third-person singular, so the pronoun is it.
Which forces the shift. You must say, I take it off. The particle off gets displaced.
But when we use the success meaning, my idea took off, the subject My idea is singular, so if we replace that subject, it becomes...
It took off. Exactly. Here, off stays with the verb because there's no object being replaced between the verb and the particle. It's a totally different sentence structure.
The moment the language forces you to move words around like that, you know you are operating at an advanced level. It requires a really deep internal knowledge of the rules.
Indeed. Which brings us to part 2. We're going to apply this knowledge and dive into high-frequency, non-literal language, the kind you hear every single day. We're transitioning to 10 common phrasal verbs and then some essential idioms.
Okay, let's make this section conversational. For each verb, let's explore a scenario where a learner might use it, and maybe where they might make a mistake. Starting with aim at.
To aim at is to set an intention or a target. The structural complexity here is that what you're aiming at can be either a noun or, importantly, a gerund verb. So if you're physically targeting something, he aimed at the bullseye, a noun target.
But what if the target is a process or an action?
Then the gerund rule applies. The CEO is aiming at reducing their cost by 10%. Notice that reducing must be the gerund. A learner might try to say aiming to reduce, which feels like an infinitive structure, but here, anterior is a preposition, and it demands the gerund. It's a subtle but defining error.
Okay. Next up, shrug off. I love the physicality of this one. It's so visceral.
It really is. It captures the meaning perfectly. When you shrug off something, you dismiss it, you indicate it has no importance to you. It's often used when you're dealing with criticism or, a minor conflict.
So if I have a big presentation and someone in the audience made a nasty comment...
You wouldn't let it destroy your confidence. You would say, his insult was aimed at me, but I just shrugged it off. You actively chose to treat it as unimportant. The focus is on that emotional disregard.
Now for the opposite of disregarding something, egg on. This has a wonderful negative connotation.
Oh, definitely. When you egg someone on, you're encouraging them, but specifically towards something foolish or reckless or ill-advised. It is not positive motivation.
So like students egging on a debate with a teacher, trying to escalate the tension.
Exactly. Or a crowd at a skate park encouraging a really risky jump. The key is the malicious or careless encouragement. If you're encouraging a friend to study harder, you'd use encourage or support or cheer on. You'd never use egg on unless you wanted them to fail their exam dramatically.
Right. The context is vital. Okay, moving to rejection. Turn down.
A simple, essential verb. To turn down an invitation and offer a proposal, you reject it. It's concise and professional. She turned down the job offer.
Wait, I have a quick follow-up on that one. This often confuses people. How do we differentiate between turn down meaning reject and turn down meaning reduce volume?
That's a great point. Context is our savior here. If the object is something physical, like music or the volume, it refers to reduction. Please turn down the radio. If the object is an opportunity, an invitation, or even a person like, she turned me down, it means rejection. The noun that follows the phrasal verb dictates the meaning.
Good distinction. Next, the modern workplace necessity. Zoom in out.
It's the visual command. Zoom in to make an object closer. Zoom out to make it farther away. While it started in photography, its modern application in video conferencing is inescapable. Your boss tells you, we can only see your forehead, please zoom out slightly. It has become a crucial piece of professional vocabulary.
Speaking of professional, or maybe unprofessional, we have the deliciously deceptive phrasal verb, wiggle out of.
This paints such a vivid picture of slippery avoidance. To wiggle out of a responsibility means you avoid it, not through honest means, but through cunning, often deceptive means. You find a loophole, or you fabricate an excuse.
Give me a scenario. I need to clean the garage this weekend, and I really, really don't want to.
You might suddenly develop a completely fabricated back injury right when the job starts. You'd say, I was just about to lift that box, but I've suddenly got a terrible crick in my back. Sorry, I'm going to have to wiggle out of that chore.
Or conveniently receive an urgent phone call.
Exactly. It implies slickness and a kind of theatrical avoidance. It's passive aggression wrapped in a phrasal verb.
Love it. Now for the universal experience of tardiness. Hold up.
To hold up means to be delayed, whether short-term by traffic or long-term by weather. And it is particularly common in the passive voice when you're apologizing.
Sorry I'm late. I was held up. That structure is essential. We don't often say traffic delayed me. We use the passive voice for external causes.
Exactly. Or actively. My partner always holds me up because they can never find their keys before we leave the house. It's highly versatile for explaining any kind of delay.
Okay, moving to relationship building. Hit it off.
This is a universally positive phrase. It means to establish a very successful, positive connection or relationship right from the very first meeting. Everything just flowed, you had shared interests, there was an instant rapport.
The source highlighted a structural detail here. It's almost always used with the subject we.
Yes, or a plural subject. I wasn't sure about the new team leader, but we really hit it off in the first meeting. It is rarely used singularly, though you could say he and I hit it off immediately. The focus is on the mutual positive experience.
Okay, phrasal verb number 9, implying persistence. Get through.
To get through means to finish, but it carries a strong connotation of difficulty or struggle. It's not just completing a task, it's surviving it.
So if I say, I have 10 reports I need to get through by the end of the day, it suggests I'm going to need a lot of coffee and maybe a nap afterward.
Precisely. If you just said finish, you lose that implied sense of effort.
Yes.
Get through adds emotional weight to the effort required.
And finally, a social courtesy. Freshen up.
A polite, quick way to say you need to make a minor improvement to your appearance before a social interaction.
Yeah.
Brushing your hair, reapplying makeup, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I need a moment to freshen up before the guests arrive. It's much more succinct and polite than explaining what you're actually doing.
That gives the learner 10 highly practical, high-frequency phrasal verbs. Now we move into the truly fixed, non-literal language of idioms. If collocations were rigid, idioms are
Set in stone. They are fixed word groups, whose meaning is totally different from the sum of their individual parts. And the rule of fixed order is absolute. You cannot change, substitute, or omit any word without losing comprehension. It's a memory test, not a logic test.
right. The famous example, we played a game to break the ice. The article, the hours, is non-negotiable.
If you say break an ice, it sounds like you're literally smashing a piece of frozen water. The listener's brain just stops, trying to reconcile the literal meaning with the context. That pause in comprehension is what breaks fluency. You must master the idiom as a perfect unbroken unit.
Okay, let's run through these highly common idioms, focusing on that surprising, non-literal meaning. Starting with the performance ritual, break a leg.
Despite the violent imagery, this just means good luck. Use it before presentations, auditions, exams, any nerve-wracking situation. It's a very colloquial way to send positive energy.
Next up, spill the beans.
To reveal a secret. And it implies an accidental or clumsy disclosure. If a surprise party is planned, and someone accidentally mentions the guest list to the person the party is for, they have just spilled the beans.
A bedtime classic. Hit the haystack.
Simple and effective. Go to bed or go to sleep.
It's been a long day of deep dive research. I'm gonna hit the sack.
The idiom of grim determination. Bite the bullet.
This is a fantastic idiom. It means to face a difficult or painful situation with fortitude. If you've been putting off a mandatory doctor's visit, you finally have to bite the bullet and go.
And on the opposite end of that spectrum, hit the jackpot.
Which means to experience a significant, often unexpected, success or gain. In business, if you secure a massive career-making contract, you've absolutely hit the jackpot.
Catch someone's eye.
To attract attention or be noticed. This is often used when trying to impress someone in authority. Her excellent performance review finally caught the manager's eye. And crucially, note the use of the possessive here, the manager's eye.
Next, hit the nail on the head. This is a strong compliment. It means to describe precisely what is causing a problem or situation. If someone analyzes a complex issue perfectly, you tell them, wow, you really hit the nail on the head with that analysis.
Moving to something you should definitely avoid. Burn bridges.
A warning to professionals everywhere. It means to damage relationships or close off future opportunities. If you quit your job by yelling at your boss and storming out, you have absolutely burned bridges. Never do it.
And its social counterpart, slightly less damaging. Jump on the bandwagon.
To adopt a popular activity or trend. If a technology that everyone resisted suddenly becomes mainstream and they all switch over, the late adopters are jumping on the bandwagon. They're adopting it purely because of its popularity.
Be in the same boat.
A quick way to express solidarity. It means to face the exact same challenges or be in a similar difficult situation. If you and your coworkers are all struggling with a tight deadline, you can comfort each other by saying, don't worry, we're all in the same boat.
A descriptive favorite. Spick and span.
Means neat, tidy, and impeccably clean. You clean your apartment until it is spick and span before guests arrive.
Now let's pair up the money idioms. We have costs an arm and a leg and cost a pretty penny.
Both mean the same thing. Very expensive. My new gaming PC cost an arm and a leg, or it cost a pretty penny. They're interchangeable, though cost an arm and a leg perhaps implies a slightly more shocking price point.
And the opposite.
Dirt cheap.
Very, very inexpensive. A great intensifier. If something is heavily discounted, it's dirt cheap.
Which often happens to a knockoff.
A copy or imitation of a product. If you see a high-end designer watch being sold for a price that is dirt cheap, it's a big red flag. It's probably a knockoff. The departure idiom, hit the road.
To begin a journey or simply leave a place. It's proactive and decisive. We've got everything packed. Let's hit the road before traffic gets bad.
Break a sweat.
To exert physical effort. But we usually hear this in the negative, don't we?
Yeah, that's true. If the task was incredibly easy, you say, that negotiation was so simple, I didn't even break a sweat. It's an easy way to boast about minimal effort.
Then there's the polite sickness excuse. Under the weather.
Right. To feel sick or slightly unwell, it's the gentle way to call in sick. I'm sorry, I'll be working from home today. I'm feeling a little under the weather.
And to wrap up the idioms, call it a day-night.
To decide to stop working on something. I appreciate the flexibility here. Even if it's 9 p.m., you can still say, let's call it a day. It signifies the conclusion of the work period for now. Okay, that was a rapid-fire download of fixed vocabulary rules. Now we need to transition into the equally rigid world of advanced grammar. Let's tackle the definitive expert-level concept, the gerund.
Many people learn about the gerund, but they misunderstand its core function. That's why they misuse it. Let's clarify. The gerund is the base verb plus ing, and it functions always and only as a noun.
Always as a noun.
Always. Think of it as verbal energy that is sort of frozen and used as a naming word.
So it's not an action in that moment, it's the name of the action.
Exactly. Contrast this with the infinitive to swim. The infinitive often expresses purpose or a future action. The gerund, swimming, names the activity itself. This leads to the three primary uses outlined in the source.
Okay, use one. Subject of a sentence.
Right. If the sentence is structured, subject plus verb plus object, the gerund takes the subject's place. Swimming is my favorite activity. Swimming is the noun that is the activity.
Use two. Object of a verb.
This is very common with preference verbs. Verbs like enjoy, love, hate. They all take a gerund as their object. She enjoys reading novels. What does she enjoy? Reading.
Okay. And the third use, which is the most structurally critical, and it links back to everything we just discussed, the gerund as the object of a preposition.
This is the golden rule of advanced grammar. If used with a preposition, the following verb must be a gerund. This is non-negotiable. He's interested in preposition, learning gerund, new languages.
And this is how we connect back to part one. This rule clarifies the structure of phrasal verbs, specifically those non-separable ones we talked about.
Correct. Take the phrasal verb put off, which means to delay or postpone. Because off acts as a preposition, any verb that follows must be a gerund. You can't say, he put off to ask his boss.
No, it has to be.
It must be. He put off asking his boss for a promotion. Understanding the prepositional function of the particle is the key to mastering the grammar of phrasal verbs.
So beyond those three foundational uses, we need to master specific fixed expressions that demand a gerund because they contain a kind of hidden prepositional structure.
And the first one that often trips people up is to be committed to. Many students see the word to and they just assume it signals an infinitive.
But here, the to is a preposition signifying dedication to something. So you say, she is committed to improving her English fluency.
Right. And because it's a preposition, the phrase can take either a gerund or a proving or a simple noun. She is committed to her English fluency. It accepts both because the gerund is just functioning as a noun.
Okay, next, responsible for.
Clear preposition, clear rule. Who is responsible for managing the project? You must use managing.
Third, the expression of familiarity. Used to.
Yes, when you were talking about being accustomed to something, I'm used to waking up early. If you use the infinitive here, I used to wake up early, you change the meaning entirely. Now you're talking about a past habit that no longer occurs.
Right, the inclusion of to be, I am used to, that's what changes the rule.
That's the trigger. Fourth, the professional closing. Look forward to.
Another to that isn't an infinitive.
Right again. The to is prepositional, meaning anticipation toward an event. We look forward to meeting the new team members. Essential for professional communication.
And fifth, the warning, advised against.
The preposition against requires the gerund. The consultant advised against investing in the project. These 5 structures are absolute must-knows for advanced competence.
Okay, now let's move to the most irregular, specialized structure in this grammar section, the go plus gerund structure. This is a true hallmark of native speech.
This structure is very, very niche. It's used only when discussing physical activities or leisure activities involving physical movement. And it overrides the standard subject plus verb plus infinitive rule,
So an intermediate learner applying logic would probably say, I go to hike every Sunday.
which is grammatically incorrect in this specific context. The rule demands the gerund, so it must be. I go hiking every Sunday. The physical activity verb is frozen in the gerund form.
The fascinating structural detail here is that the active verb go carries all the burden of conjugation, while the activity verb, the gerund, remains completely untouched.
That's the key to using it fluently. You talk about a past activity, you conjugate go. Yesterday, I went hiking. If you're talking about what someone is currently planning, you conjugate go into the continuous. She's going hiking later. But in all cases, hiking never changes its form.
So the list of common activities is vital for the learner to memorize. We are talking about running, jogging, hiking, camping.
Canoeing, kayaking, diving, boating, shopping, snowboarding, skiing, climbing, fishing, surfing, horseback riding, and dancing. If you're doing something physical for leisure, try to train yourself to use the go plus gerund structure. It will instantly elevate your speech.
And the ultimate complexity, the apex of this grammar section, is the double gerund. This proves that two advanced rules can stack on top of each other, and both must be followed.
Let's analyze the sentence. I enjoy going hiking. It looks strange, but it is perfect.
So rule 1. The verb enjoy is a preference verb, which requires the verb that follows it to be a gerund.
So go becomes going. That's gerund number 1. Now we look at the second verb. The verb go, now going, is immediately followed by a physical leisure activity, hike.
Which triggers rule 2. The go plus gerund rule applies. Therefore, hike must also be a gerund. So hike becomes hiking.
And that's how we end up with I enjoy going hiking. It's a perfect example of rule application, not creative expression. Mastering this shows you truly understand the internal mechanics of the English language.
Incredible detail. Okay, let's pivot from production to reception. Understanding the grammar and vocabulary is one thing, but how do we decode natives when they speak so quickly? We need to talk about listening and pronunciation, deconstructing connected speech.
This is where listening comprehension so often falls apart. The goal here is to get comfortable with fast English, which requires training your ear to hear what isn't being said clearly.
So why do native speakers sound like they're just skipping words?
Because of connected speech. In natural, rapid English, word boundaries are eroded and sounds are combined, reduced, or sometimes entirely dropped. We often swallow the unstressed function, words like prepositions, articles, and auxiliary verbs, to speed up the overall rhythm.
Okay, let's analyze the source's example sentence, which is often spoken as a single rapid sound. What do you want me to do about it?
Let's take it in pieces. First, the combination. What do you collapses. The T sound is often lost, and it merges into a sound like wad you, or sometimes wad you.
Okay, wadu. Next up, want me. The T in want is almost always unstressed or just dropped entirely in natural speech, the flat T. So want me connects as wam.
Right, no hard T sound is heard. Third, the reduction of to do is barely pronounced. The T is reduced to an almost invisible schwa sound, which is that lazy sound. It becomes to do.
To do. And finally, the linking in about it.
The final consonant of about links to the initial vowel of it. And since about is unstressed here, the to often softens into a quick to sound, sounding like about it.
So putting those four reductions together, wadi waman, to do about it, the 9 words become this unrecognizable chain of sound, yet that's exactly how natives speak.
And again, the grammar remains consistent underneath that audio challenge. What do you want me to do contextually means what actions should I take? And if you follow up about it with a verb, that gerund rule applies instantly.
For example, what do you want me to do about losing the client? About is the preposition forcing losing to the gerund form.
The practical advice for you here is not just to recognize the phenomenon, but to train your ears to specifically listen for those reduced function words. Don't listen for what do you, listen for what do you. Focus on identifying the key content words, want, do it, and let the prepositions and pronouns just blend away.
That brings us to our final section, building speaking confidence and essential expressions. Once you understand the mechanics, you have to practice applying them.
And the core technique recommended for this is shadowing. This means you listen to a native speaker and you immediately repeat exactly what they say out loud, trying to match their pace. It is critical that you make the sounds audibly, not just in your head.
It's physical training for your mouth and your ear. You're mimicking not just the words, but the rhythm, the intonation, and those exact reductions we just discussed.
Right, so practice with those concepts we just covered. Say them aloud. Did she keep her promise? Focus on that clear, keep verb for the collocation.
Practice the phrasal verb. We took off around 10, feeling the separation between took and off when used non-transitively.
Practice the idiom. How did you break the ice? Ensuring you include that crucial definite article, the.
And the irregular gerund. Going hiking is so fun, getting comfortable with that double vowel sound.
And then practice the connected speech. What do you want me to do about it? Trying to make it sound like one seamless sound. Shadowing is the bridge between cognitive knowledge and physical application.
Finally, let's look at a few essential colloquial expressions that provide instant fluency points, along with their grammatical nuances, starting with the high five of language. You rock.
This simply means you're great or you're awesome. The vital note here is that rock is used as a verb in this sentence. It means to be energetic, excellent, or impressive.
And the common learner error is trying to apply the noun sense of rock.
Yes, they'll say, you are rock. That breaks fluency immediately. The correct structure is just subject plus verb. You rock.
Okay. And related to appreciation. Thanks for your help.
Simple, but the grammar is crucial. The word for is a preposition, which means it requires either a noun, like your help, or a gerund. So you can say, thanks for helping me, or thanks for your patience. Always check that the word after for is a noun or a gerund.
Let's dive into the rub expressions. The first is the phrasal verb, rub off on you.
This means one person's behavior, their trait or characteristic, transfers to another person through association. It's often used when we're discussing habits.
So if I work closely with someone who is extremely organized and I start adopting their neatness,
then their organization is rubbed off on you. It implies a subtle, pervasive influence. Fernando used to be messy, but Janice's organization finally rubbed off on him. Notice that the trait, organization, can actually be the subject of this sentence.
Now the second expression, which is an idiom, rub me the wrong way.
Right. Despite the similar verb, this means something entirely different and usually negative. It means to annoy, irritate, or offend someone. And it implies a personality conflict or a specific comment that caused unintended offense.
So, I really like my team leader, but the way she snaps her gum rubs me the wrong way.
It's that subtle form of annoyance. It's often used for minor behavioral quirks that just clash with your personality. If something rubbed you the wrong way, it left a lingering irritation, even if the person who caused it had good intentions.
And our final expression involves relying on pure intuition, not facts. Had a hunch.
To have a hunch means to predict or suspect something based on a gut feeling. It's intuition rather than evidence. The tricky part for the advanced learner here is the tense sequencing.
Right. If I make a prediction now, I say, I have a hunch he will accept. Present simple plus future simple.
But if you use the past tense, the prediction also has to shift into the past, which requires would, the past tense of will.
So if I was talking about my feelings last week about a staff member quitting, I'd say, I had a hunch he would quit.
And that's where the listening challenge comes in. When natives say this quickly, they contract the words, I had a hunch he'd quit. Recognizing that he'd is a contraction for he would in this context and not he had is what distinguishes expert listening comprehension.
Yeah.
You have to recognize that the past prediction requires the modal would.
That was an incredible detailed deep dive. We've really unpacked the advanced layers of English. We systematically covered the rigid, non-logical rules of vocabulary collocations and idioms, the mechanical, non-negotiable rules of grammar, the gerund's function and that double gerund structure, and finally, the audible rules of speech connectedness and shadowing.
The goal now is for you, the listener, to stop merely hearing or reading these concepts and start actively spotting them. Every time you encounter a word that ends in ing in English, ask yourself, is this a verb or is the a gerund functioning as a noun? Every time you see a phrasal verb, test its separability. This is how the knowledge translates into rapid, noticeable improvement.
This entire exploration reinforced one fundamental truth about achieving advanced fluency. So much of natural speech relies on adhering to thousands of fixed, non-logical patterns. You must say, we broke the ice, and you must use the go plus gerund structure for leisure activity.
It creates a fascinating paradox, doesn't it?
It does. If mastery requires such rigorous memorization and pattern recognition, knowing the thousands of fixed phrases you cannot change, it raises the question. In advanced fluency, is the greatest creative freedom only achieved through perfect, rigorous adherence to the fixed rules?
The rigid structure is the bedrock. the more effortlessly you can handle those fixed patterns, the collocations, the idioms, the grammar. The less energy you spend on mechanics and the more freely and creatively you can use the rest of the language to express yourself. It's structure enabling creativity.
Something for you to chew on as you continue your journey toward fluent speech. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.